to do the Pledge of Allegiance for us, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Genesis. Genesis is our new student rep, and we welcome you. Let me just welcome my colleagues and welcome everybody who's in the audience, and also welcome those who may be joining us by television. We want to welcome you here. Before we get started, we just had a presentation of our winners of the regional, were they regional winners, Commissioner?
Class A.
Class A, the Wilson Wildcats, and so we want to send a congratulations to that team. I understand that that's the first time since 2006, and so if we could just give them a round of applause. And let me just say, I was just, a parent just approached us and wanting to do more. So I'm hoping that that parent will reach out to Carlos and to the Wilson staff and really do a great celebration for that. This seemed a little kind of off, and so I'm hoping that a huge celebration is going to be had for our team over at Wilson. So again, we want to congratulate the Wilson Wildcats. And the next order of business is I need a motion to approve. Oh, before that, let me just welcome Deputy Superintendent for Administration, Lawrence Boatwright, who's sitting in for Superintendent Dean Williams. She and the president are attending an award ceremony where the superintendent is going to be receiving an award at MCC. So Superintendent Dean Williams and President Van White are attending that event. The president went to support the superintendent. So you have me tonight. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of the October 26th business meeting?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have no speakers for the, on the agenda that is wanted to speak on an agenda item. So what we'll do is that we'll have those people who are interested in speaking not on the agenda item to come forth to speak. And the first person who's on the agenda is Mercedes Phelan. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Phelan.
My name is Mercedes Phelan. I have a daughter in the school district, and I'm also the new education organizer for Alliance for Quality Education and Metro Justice. As a parent, I'm concerned about bringing my child into the school climate that is currently present in the Rochester City School District. After talking to other parents, I have seen that I am not the only parent or community member with these concerns. I have recently attended a restorative practices event and found it to be immensely helpful to my well-being. It is something that would be beneficial to not only all teachers and students, but parents as well, and I've seen the data that proves this. As part of the Solutions Not Suspensions campaign, we would like to see restorative practices implemented in every school in the city district. In order to make this possible, we would also like to see an investment in restorative practices coordinators that would alleviate the already stretched capacity in the school community. We are also happy to hear that according to Sunday's opinion piece that the superintendent is willing to publicly have suspension data on the website. We would like to know how the data that is being allotted and when we can expect to see that. We believe that this data would be more helpful to community and the schools if it is posted on a monthly basis similar to the way that the Buffalo Public Schools have done. Furthermore, community groups and parents would like to truly understand the process for implementation of the Code of Conduct in a way that allows teachers and the administrators to fully embrace the code. This will help us identify where progress is being made and where the gaps lay. Finally, the school district was supposed to hire a director of African American Affairs. That position is yet to be filled. We would like to encourage that this become a priority. You will hear today from Sheila regarding a physical condition, which are also important to the school climate. We encourage an assessment of this issue throughout the district. On behalf of the Solutions Not Suspensions campaign, I would like to hand you this letter which outlines the goals that we believe are most important in order to continue the work toward a positive school climate. Thank you.
Zenobia Nelson. And after Zenobia, it is Shayla Figueroa.
Good evening, board, and everyone else. My name is Zenobia Nelson. I'm raising 3 grandboys. My grandboys are special ed. On April the 4th, my 7-year-old came home from school with this on his head. When I asked what happened to him, he said his teacher done it. I immediately made a police report, and I came down to the Board of Education where I met a Mr. Ken Davis. Mr. Ken Davis said he can help me. I met a Lori Baldwin April the 5th, and she's the head of security. This was in 2016. I came down April the 8th and met with Mr. Ken again. We have had 4 meetings at School 43 about this teacher. On April the 21st, this teacher admitted slamming my baby on the ground, holding his head to a rug, saying because he thought my baby was talking about his mother. Nothing has been done about this yet. This teacher is still teaching. I am outraged. This is a year and 6 months and I'm still waiting? I've been coming down here once a month, sometimes twice a month. Nothing's been done. Is it because my baby has an IEP and he's in special ed? Is this teacher trained to even teach this class? Does this teacher know that he's not supposed to put his hands on students? My baby has been on 3 different kinds of medications since this incident. He has been to the doctors the same day. No nurse report was done. Nothing was done. In the Board of Education, I've been coming down here. I've been calling you. I've left letters. I've had those letters documented, timed. No one has got back to me. When I go to the Mr. O'Neill, Brian O'Neill was the investigator from the Board of Education that was supposed to have been investigating this. For the last 4 months, I've been coming down there saying Mr. O'Brien is no longer here. So who has my baby case? How many children got to be hurt like this by students before something is done? I am outraged. Like, I don't know what to do. My baby has a lifetime mark. And no one's helping me? I can't get no help from them. Listen, I can't even get an apology. Nothing. Not even a call back and say, we're sorry that your child had to go through this. He's still going through. Like, he's on sleeping medication now. I'm telling my son, he's 8 years old now. He for the first 3 or 4 months, a male teacher couldn't get near him. I'm asking for some help. I'm asking for some answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shayla Ferguson. Shayla Ferguson. After Shayla Ferguson, Melody Flores. Shayla Figueroa. After Shayla Figueroa, Melody Flores.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Shayla Figueroa.
Good evening. My name is Shayla Figueroa.
Yo trabajo en la escuela número 9
I work in school number 9,
hace 6 años.
6 years.
Trabajo con los niños de pre-kinder.
I work with the preschool kids.
Okay, el problema es que nosotros tenemos un parquecito
My problem is we have a little park.
Donde van los niños de pre-kinder.
The pre-kinder children go to play.
Y ahí tenemos que que nosotros chequear si hay,
Before we can send the children outside, we have to go outside and check around,
si hay algo que los niños se golpeen o algo.
and make sure the kids don't gonna get hurt.
Primero chequeamos y encontramos botellas rotas,
We find broken glass,
condones,
condoms,
bolsitas de droga
little bags of drugs in the playground.
y tenemos que recoger todo eso para que los niños puedan jugar.
We have to clean that before the kids can come out.
También hemos visto a personas que usan bebida frente a los estudiantes y tenemos que entonces entrar
And we
para
start to
atrás.
see people a lot of drinking in the park, inside the park, and we have to bring the kids back. We have finished playing.
Y tenemos que entonces buscar una ayuda para que los nenes puedan jugar en el parque.
We want to find help, so that way we can keep the park safe and clean, and the kids can play and don't find things like this and needles and glass. They have the right to play free without being scared to get hurt.
Los niños quieren jugar en el parque, son muy chiquitos y tenemos que explicarles.
The children, they're very small, and we try to explain it to them not to touch nothing, and when they go to play, and we have to keep it close to us.
Y espero que nos ayuden porque los niños quieren jugar.
We're asking you, please help us, because the kids want to play, and they have the right to play in a safe place.
No queremos usar el gym, queremos que los niños salgan afuera
We
y
don't
se
want to
diviertan.
be only locked in the gym. We want them to be free to be play outside like in other children in other schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie Flores. Melody Flores. Denise Torres.
Good evening. My name is Denise Torres, and I'm a proud parent of 2 children at number 58 school. But I'm also a school psychologist in the district since 1994. I became a school psychologist because I was that kid who panicked before every test or every examination, and everything that I knew flew out of my head. I reasoned that no one could better understand the effects of testing better than I could, and thus wanted to be that person in front of that student who was anxious, who was uncomfortable, who was fearful. As a school psychologist, I spend my first 15 to 30 minutes establishing a rapport with that student and making sure that they are as comfortable as possible, and help them to understand that this was just a snapshot of one day in their school life. Encourage them to do their best, but not sweat it. It's come to my attention that the district is considering moving to an online outsourcing of the school psychologist role in psychoeducational evaluations, where the student is evaluated by a stranger on a screen. I'm aghast. Before we once again take another reactionary step, like the recent firing of 22 case personnel, only to have to recall them, not to mention how this decision has impacted the workload of all school psychologists and likely the resulting vacancies in positions. So I want us to pause and consider a few questions if the plan is to move in this direction. 1, who are these remote people that will evaluate our students? What is their experience with urban students? How will they access student files, teacher input, parent input, classroom observations, and have an understanding of our school culture? How will our students respond to a complete stranger on a screen? Who will be responsible for getting the students and bringing them to this testing location? How effectively Can you establish rapport through a video screen? How is the validity and reliability of the results impacted? And what about confidentiality? How is the company held accountable for their work? And how many other urban districts have done this, and what is the result? And lastly, how is this in the best interest of our children? And would you want this for your children and your grandchildren? Thank you.
Thank you. Clay Harris. Clay Harris. Juan Collado. Are you Juan? Yes. Okay.
Good evening, everyone on the board. Good evening, everyone else around here. So I'm sorry, I didn't bring today's paper, so I bring my phone. It's pretty little, so I will try to read my best. So my name is Juan. I'm an organizer with Special Parents, Special Kid, and I'm a Metro Justice member for 4 years right now. And I want to talk today about programs for students like me for success in the Rochester City School District. I used to go to East High School around 4 to 5 years ago. And I used to get suspended like all the time. I come on Monday and already I come back on Friday, I was suspended, and Monday come back, and that was gone for weeks. This was because there were not enough teachers who spoke my language, that is Spanish, and they could not understand me. Also, I was bullied because I have an accent. Now the district has a new code of conduct. I want everyone in the Rochester City School District to use the new code of conduct. These policies should protect students like me. I missed more than six months of school because of suspensions. At East High School, there were not enough counselors to deal with all the problems that I have with bullying. My counselor never had the time to hear my side of the story. So I always was feel ignored, and I actually was ignored. You should hire more counselors, social workers, and people they can understand our students in schools, psychologists and other staff members, and can actually deal with and work with kids who have special needs, like me. And right now I'm attending to Monroe Oasis one, a Connor Academy, in the same place that I was bullied to because of my accent. But my teacher brought me, my counselor, my mom, and the other students' mom. And we solved the problem. And the problem was that he wasn't able to understand me half of the time because of my accent. Now the student actually graduate. We were pretty good friends in the years that he was in school. We're still hanging out after school, pretty good friends. And now then we have a better code of conduct. We should spend money, and we should spend all that money that we have in counselors, special education teachers, and more adults, and we can talk and work with the students. Having people can talk at schools helped me a lot. And I don't want my brother, who's actually dropped off school in East High School because they promised him better classes and more programs for him, and they never finished and accomplished their promises for him, who actually passed through this too. I have a little sister who actually gave up the Rochester City School District, and my older sister too, and they went back to Puerto Rico because of the same problems. And I think we should have the right programs and in our district, and don't need our students to travel an hour or two to Fairport or another different districts like Oasis to have their right education when they can have it in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Shalinda Bowler. Shalinda Bowler. Joel Kraft. Are you Shalinda? All right, come on up. I'm sorry. Called too fast. Good evening.
Hello, everyone. Some of you may already know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Shalinda Bowler. I was a youth organizer at Teen Empowerment for 2 years, and I am now an associate coordinator on the staff level. I am also a recent graduate of the district. I came here today to speak on the behalf of the students in the RCSD in regards to the Pan-African Studies curriculum. This past year, there were student, parent, and school administrator focus groups conducted by TE youth organizers, some members of the community task force, and a few parents. Out of all of the issues discussed within these groups, one that came up in all three was the need for students to see themselves in a curriculum and the want for more teachers that represent the population in the RCSD. The fact that about 86% of students in the district are kids of color and they are not taught about their history in depth is ridiculous. I want to share a few examples of good intentions, but we've got a lot of work to do. In my former school, we had both Pan-African Studies classes and an African-American literature class. The problem with the Pan-African Studies class was that they only talked about the geographical aspect of the African culture. They never got into the true history and the stories that were very intricate parts to learn. However, I was lucky to have my AAL class because my teacher touched on various topics that related to us as a people. I did notice, though, that she had a barrier in front of her. Many texts that she wanted to give us were prohibited by the district without valid reason, so she had to teach us within this box. Many of these were college-level texts. You would think that the district would want us to dive into college-level reading. I know another teacher who was also teaching an African-American literature class this year, who on the first day only had 3 students enrolled in her class. She later found out that the reason behind this was because counselors were directing students away from this subject and directing them towards business writing, which in my opinion is not right. Meanwhile, we know that there has been a process open for several months to hire a director for the African American Studies Department, and there have been some great candidates, but we have no clue where that stands as of now, and we would like to know what's going on. What we really want to see are elements from culturally responsive approaches to learning in all subject areas, and to have core courses available to all students at all levels of schooling, and to make it mandatory that history teachers have training and background knowledge about this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Joel Kraft.
Good evening. I don't know if this microphone's set up for my height. So, my name is Joel Kraft. I am a member of the Oasis Institutional Advisory Board, and tonight I'm advocating for the continued funding and support for the Office of Adult and Career Education Services here in the Rochester City School District. As a stakeholder in the community, in which we are all here to support, and on behalf of the board, I would like to say thank you for the restored funding for some of the most successful vocational programs that the Oasis program has. Our advisory board meets bi-weekly and is comprised of business professionals, that's my uniform, local advocates, clergy, legislators, and residents that are invested in the betterment of our community by extending the tools necessary for those in need to be productive members of our local community. Every member understands the value that this program provides. Oasis exists for the connection between a traditional education and an individual's future, and those things are often difficult to see, and some don't succeed. We educate those in need with, and through traditional avenues, when traditional avenues have faltered, and the resources needed to provide the skills for vocational jobs don't exist. It is when one can support themselves, their family, and their future that they realize the importance of a career and an education. We too believe that the Oasis program is of the utmost importance for the responsible use of taxpayer funding. When a student graduates from the Oasis program and becomes a self-sustaining citizen within our community through employment, as most do, then they realize the potential that the program and what it was intended to do. I'm extending an invitation to everyone on the board to visit 30 Hart Street, the Oasis program, and see firsthand the impact, if you haven't yet, that this has. Thank you all for your time, and on behalf of the Oasis Advisory Board, we look forward to your strength and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Armini Izzo. After Ms. Izzo, Susan Augustinelli. And lastly, Michelle Underwood.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Armini Izzo. I'm a school psychologist in the City School District. This is my 37th year in the district. I'm a legacy. And I'm also the most veteran, but not the oldest, psych in the district. That's a fact I'm proud of. My dad was a school psychologist in city schools, and he was here for 34 years. Now, if you add those together, even if you use the new math, it's 71 years serving the city school district. I have to tell you, I've never, in all of my years, seen the condition of special ed as it is today. With the elimination of the cases, psychologists now have to pick up their work on top of our work. Having to perform the duties leaves me little or no time to interface with families, the students, to do crisis intervention, consult with teachers, create behavior plans, monitor interventions so students don't necessarily need special ed. I've spent so much time trying to get restorative practices in my building going. Last year, a great deal of time. This year, like no time, because I don't have it anymore. I strongly believe in restorative practices. It works. I've seen it work in my building, reducing bullying, really getting kids engaged. However, this year, I find very little time to engage in peace circles and dealing with kids in crisis, which is also part of my job. Our ability to complete, my ability and my colleagues' ability to even complete psychological evaluations is compromised by all the other work that wasn't ours that we inherited. Compounding that problem is the fact that we're down a number of psychologists. We are down 9 psychologists, which means that there's a lot of schools that don't have them. So we came up with the representatives of our department, came up with a plan, how we could utilize the existing psychs in a way of spreading them out a little bit more so that we can cover those schools. We proposed it to the executive director of special ed, the chief of special ed, and our director. And all we hear are crickets. We get no response. So it's so disheartening after working as long as I've worked here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I find myself standing before you for the second month in a row to speak to you about school psychologists. Since last month, very little has changed in a positive way to manage all the additional tasks that have been placed upon us with the elimination of the 22 case positions. Although all of the individuals laid off were brought back, it really only translates to adding back 6 of the 22 positions. The other people filled vacancies within the existing case department. This is going to do little to help the burden that's on the school psychologists. Many of the additional tasks assigned to us could be completed by other educators. However, the one task that only a school psychologist can complete is the psychological evaluation. Evaluations have always been prioritized above everything else we did as psychologists, with the exception of crisis and emergency intervention. However, this year, the additional tasks added to our caseload have become the priority. Psychologists are behind in their work in spite of working on average an additional 10 to 15 hours a week beyond contractual time. Adding insult to injury, 14% of our department is unstaffed. That's 9 positions. Administration cites a shortage of school psychologists across the state as the reason for these vacancies. While this may be true of more rural areas, in the past 20 years, Rochester has never, ever had an issue filling vacant school psych positions. We are fortunate to have 6 different universities within a 2-hour radius of us that have school psych programs. The real issue is that the psychologist position was not posted until late October, even though many of these vacancies were known about in the spring. Multiple attempts were made to inform administration about the need to post the position in the spring when graduates are looking for jobs. Still, no one acted. Any shortage in our department as a result of this district not being proactive in posting the job in the first place. As a result of these vacancies, we have schools with no psychologists assigned to them at all. Administration proposes the idea of online testing as a solution for our staffing issues. A psychologist located somewhere in the United States FaceTiming with students to somehow provide a statistically valid and reliable evaluation is not in the best interest of our students. Our students deserve better. Our students deserve the personal connections made by our psychologists. Online testing is only going to provide you test scores. It will not provide you the high-quality, comprehensive, individualized psychological evaluation as prescribed by Part 200 New York State law. This is a poor solution to a problem that did not need to exist in the first place. We have offered several feasible ideas to utilize the currently employed psychologists to ensure that all evaluations are completed within the necessary timelines. Until staff can be hired, we want to ensure that all buildings and all students in this district have access to school psychs. Once again, our attempts at bringing positive change has been fruitless. At this point, we are literally begging you, the superintendent, the Board of Education, to meet with us and hear our suggestions. Please help us help the students in this district. I thank you for your time.
Michelle Underwood.
Good evening. Myself and my team, we first wanted to introduce ourselves. We're the Autism Team from School 41. We wanted to inform you about our program and why it's crucial that we keep our students and our team together for the benefit of their social emotional needs and developmental and educational progress. Our specialized program serves over 60 students with autism spectrum disorder. Many of our students have started at School 41 since kindergarten, and this is the only environment that they're familiar with. They have made tremendous gains throughout their experience with us, and we don't want the termination of our school to negatively affect their overall well-being. Some of the unique strategies that we have deemed successful throughout our experiences have been the use of visual schedules, creating concrete routines, having access to calm-down areas, and various sensory experiences. We also use the social thinking curriculum as well as the zones of regulation to assist our students with interpersonal conflicts. As a comprehensive team, including teachers, TAs, paraprofessionals, occupational, physical, and speech therapists, we work well together through collaboration and monthly meetings with our autism consultant. We also have a partnership with the Developmental and Behavioral Pediatrics Department at the University of Rochester to assist in the specific needs of our students, as well as provide training experiences for our team. We come together for the benefit of our students and provide them with consistency that they need throughout their academic journey. Maintaining the autism team at School 41 would give our students an advantage for a happy and successful future. Please feel free to stop by School 41 and visit our amazing kids and fabulous staff working to make a difference every day. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I understand that Clay Harris has come in. Clay Harris.
Good evening, board. How's everybody? Good. Good. My name is Clay Harris, for those who don't know me, and I'm coming and speaking on behalf of Oasis. I am a member of the Community Advisory Board for Oasis. I've spoken before in support of the program at Oasis, and I've spoken to many board members. First of all, I would like to thank Superintendent Barbara Dean, which in her absence, and Sandra and Fatima Reed for helping us get the fund restored last year. And we're looking forward to the funds being restored again for the upcoming fiscal years to come. As you guys well know, more than most of us, there are so many young people that are dropping out of high school. And they basically have nowhere to go. A lot have no hope. They're hanging out on the street corner, selling drugs and jail, and on welfare. And Oasis is literally an oasis. It's a help to help them get back into education, get a diploma or a GED, and a vocation, which is extremely important in today's society, so that you can become a viable and productive citizen. And you can now not only help yourself, but you can help your family. And I hope, and I'm urging the board, and in absence of the superintendent, for those ears that are here that will share it with Superintendent Dean Williams, that we look forward to continue to work with the board and the community to make sure not only Oasis is refunded, but more funds are restored, because there has been a systematic whittling away of the adult educational program as well as the youth program. And then you have your CNA program. By the way, again, thanks for restoring that. There are a lot of young adults and adults in the program getting ready to graduate to get a job in the CNA community. And it's a necessary need. And you guys as educators, it's extremely important with the dropout rate that has been for so many years, and literally tens of thousands of young adults and adults who basically have no hope. They need to have hope, and Oasis has been a big, big light of hope. And so we're here with the passion and the commitment to help not only Oasis sustain itself, but to expand. And we really do appreciate the board's help, and we look forward to you guys continually to support it and expand it. And so we'd rather work with you than work against you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll hear from superintendent's reports. I can't remember who goes first. Is it the superintendent for the district or the superintendent for East that goes first? All right, so Dr. Nelms.
Good evening, school board and community members. I'm here to give a brief report on the EPO, and at the end of the presentation, we're going to show a video highlighting some of the work around culture and climate that the University of Rochester has documented and shared widely across the campus and the community. There were several news clips that were released that were shared with the board in a separate email. I'm going to just show one of those videos tonight. It's really important that we give context to what's happening at East. And what's in front of you is our behavior chart. And you'll see towards the bottom the trend over the last few years in instance of fighting, out of school, in-school suspension. And I heard someone earlier mention restorative practice. We are deeply engaged in year 3 of restorative practice. We trained our entire teaching staff and support staff, which includes securities, our teaching assistants and TAs. And it's been an incredible journey that we've taken to give kids an opportunity to have a leveled and equal voice around issues and trying to resolve the root causes that lead kids to disengage in schools and to take advantage of those opportunities that re-engaged many of our students at East. This is just another illustration of that for those in the audience to see that the top line were the years before East, and then the bottom line is where we are currently, and that's a month-by-month tracking of our instance of suspension. And you'll see that we are well below 30 at this time of the year. 30 is too many, but we're making some pretty incredible progress in keeping kids in classes and using our social workers and counselors and psychologists in ways that, that focus on the healing process of students who have made poor choices in the past. Another initiative that we have focused on that's been documented widely and researched at East by a few researchers is our attendance initiative. We visited 6 schools throughout New York State, including many down there in New York City, 6 to 10 schools, I believe. And we wanted to find schools that had similar demographics, that were non-select schools, meaning they weren't schools that excluded special ed kids or excluded kids who are learning English for the first time, and they had higher attendance rates. We studied that and created an attendance support team to really go after students grades 6 through 12. And you'll see that our attendance rates for grades 6 through 9 are above 90%, and the last 3 bars, grades 10, 11, and 12, are about 85% or higher. We're really proud of those numbers. We would love to see every bar above 90%. You'll also see a bar that's continuing, and those are the students who have been retained either last year or years prior. These are kids who we're most concerned about for dropouts, and so we have special interventions for them around attendance and academic support throughout the school day, as well as in the evening hours. This is just an illustration of why attendance really matters. And at East, this is the 2013 cohort. These are the kids who graduated this past June and August. And And you'll see that when we track attendance, those who attended school 90% or better had a graduation rate of 84% and only a dropout rate of 4%. So attendance does matter. And then for those kids who are in the 80 to 90, who are in the 80 and 89%, you saw graduation rates drop to 68%, but the dropout rates increased to 15. And then the kids who attend less than 80%, the dropouts go up to 70% and graduation rates go down to 12. And so we continue to track our data in ways to try to find the sweet spot for our intervention. And you'll see that 80 and above is where we have to be. 90 or above is what we want to be. And so we continue to use our data in ways that track progress by kids and looking at trends over time. And so when I say we're excited about grades 6 through 9, attendance being above 90%, it's because it creates the next wave of students coming at East, but also the kids who are in grades 10, 11, and 12, we said those attendance rates are 85% or above. So, and that's why we're confident in predicting our graduation rates being a bit higher over the next few years, because kids are attending school. I also want to give a quick overview of the School 33 partnership and thank Fatma and others on Barb's team for really engaging the community in meaningful ways. You'll see that there was a meeting on November 2nd with Path Forward. There was a parent information this past on the 14th, which is I think yesterday. We also had, we're continuing to recruit parents there to make them more informed about the resolution that was passed, and also making sure that families can go out and the 5 or 6 applications at East go out to families the week of December 4th. You'll hear a lot about this initiative within the community. We're using community volunteers, paid community volunteers to knock on doors and to be very personable about this transition. We think that this pre-K to 12 pipeline is something that the community desperately wants. They've been fully supportive of that, and it's an opportunity for us to partner in meaningful ways with the district so that we have these initiatives coming together and making sense. And I think that was also spoken to at the Path Forward meeting, where parents are really excited about the opportunity to have this pipeline of support. Also at East, for the parents and community, there's upcoming events Sunday is robotics competition. We'll host over 40 schools throughout Monroe County. East is starting to create their robotics team. We'll be in full swing next year. Also, we have student-led conferences with our lower school and recruitment nights on December 7th, and then January 11th is another recruitment night that's just specific for School 33. We invite the board to come out this weekend or to attend some of these events if you so choose. I want to end with the video that was again produced with the University of Rochester, one of their researchers and tech teams, that really highlights some of the transitions that has happened at East. You'll see that we focus on student voice as well as teachers who have been at East well before the EPO, who still remain, and how they've experienced the transition thus far. There's a lot of work to do, but I'm confident that we will be successful moving forward. Thanks, Tom.
Good morning, East Lower School. Today's Thursday, October 5th. Today's a B-Day. My name is Chase Ward, and this is my co-host,
Mr. Crandall.
One of the greatest benefits of East being in partnership with the University of Rochester is that people view this project as a sustainable option. It's a school of kids who are hopeful, kids who demand and deserve a respectful environment. And because of that, community members have been responsive.
Make it a great day or not, East Lower School. The choice is yours.
Have a great day, East Lower School.
2 minutes, let's wrap it up.
I actually came into East in October of '89 as a substitute teacher, and I was able to get a long-term position.
What did we say they all had in common at the beginning of the lesson?
I have a great love for East, a lot of connections, a lot of families, a lot of students who I've taught and worked with and continue to work with. So it's a lot of history here.
I graduated from East High School in 2005. I've always been very proud of where I went to school. So it was very exciting for me when I graduated and went to college. I knew that I wanted to be in urban education, and specifically if I could come back here, that would be the dream.
All right, let's go. Everybody have a seat, please.
So my story arc is starting at East High School. I graduated in '71, and I've been teaching for 19 years here now. I love teaching. I love working with the kids, and I love this school. This school is very special to me.
Matter is classified as a mixture if there are different types of particles present.
When you tell people where you work, the first question they ask you is, how are you guys doing? Because the community is concerned about us. They want us to succeed.
I feel a sense of community because this is like our home, kind of. We all work together, and our teachers help us become successful in life, and they try and get us ready for high school and college.
To the team, to the home, yeah, go.
I often get asked a question, how do we know if EAST is working? There are some early indicators that our students are doing extremely well, and they're responding to this new structure.
You're going to set the stage for the entire audience and the rest of the actors.
Our suspension rate has dropped nearly 85% over 3 years. You look at the rates of fights or minor altercations. The year before we came, that number was close to 230. Within 2 years, it dropped to 68. That's about a 70% drop in fights.
So we're going to think about what do we look like when we are our best self.
When we talk about restorative practices in school, it's about doing things with people as opposed to them. Because once we get to know each other and really learn from each other, the likelihood of conflict is lessened.
Oftentimes, if students have a conflict, we bring them together to circle about it. But that's one example. So we also go into classrooms and we do community building circles and we do celebratory circles. So restorative practice is really about relationship building.
We do circles, which gets us more close to each other. Sometimes we do circles to help us know each other's names, know what culture we are and how we have similarities and then our differences.
It really is helpful to students to have meaningful relationships with staff that's not necessarily connected to a class.
Our approach to discipline is vastly different than it used to be. A young man had come to one of the staff and said, listen, I have a beef with this kid. We're going to fight. I don't want to fight. Can we sit down and talk about this? That is a change. That is, you can imagine what kind of sea change that is.
Ever since U of R took over, I've seen a big change. Like, there's been less drama. I feel like we're learning more than we used to. And they give us like more options, like career classes. So they give us those options to earn extra credits.
And then where do I find the 24? The y-axis. All right, on the y-axis, perfect.
We knew from our data that kids who did not move from grades 9 to 10 had about an 80% chance of dropping out before the end of high school. The number of kids who moved from grades 9 to 10, first year was 48%. The second year, that number climbed to 80%. And so when you have 80% of your kids on track, you're better able to predict how they'll succeed 3 years later at that pivotal year, senior year.
When we actually create a system that expects kids to be successful in spite of their circumstances, the trauma they've experienced, they can go on to realize their goals and dreams. You have to raise the bar, not lower it. And that's something that we have to make sure that we're doing consistently.
I had a lot of people telling me the 9th grade year was a very important year. I started thinking about it, plus I got younger siblings. So I know that eventually they'll look up to me, and I don't want them to follow the same path that I did, which is why I changed my life around.
You never really know if you have an impact on a student's life. And some of the ones that come back to see you, you're surprised by because you thought, that's the last kid I would have expected I had an impact on. But those are the moments that make my day.
This project is so ingrained in the fabric of this community that it will sustain itself. It's truly the community's school, and that's what it should be.
Thanks, Tom. So there's a series of videos and research briefs that's been done. That's on the U of R website, rochester.edu, and we continue to expand that. In fact, the president of the university just approved the new Center for Urban Education Success, or CUES, and the purpose of that is to document the transition thus far so we can share that more widely across the city and across the state. And the good, the bad, the ugly, our lessons to learn and things that we should do to change that, but also to see if and how the project is scalable so we can take parts of that and share it as widely as possible. So I encourage you to go look at the email and look at some of the video clips there and some of the data points that's been highlighted. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Nelms? Commissioner Adams?
Thank you for the work. Congratulations on the successes. It looks, I was actually looking at over November suspension data for everyone. Okay. And I noticed that there's significant reduction in suspensions for your upper school, but there's notable increase in the lower school. Now those are mostly short-term in-school suspensions, which is good to see as opposed to long-term expulsions. But could you speak to that? You're talking about decreasing in fighting and more restorative approaches, which is fabulous. What's the picture here with the lower school?
So often for that particular incident, there was one incident that involved multiple kids. So it's not something that's consistent over time. Like if you have 4 kids get into it, then that one incident can result in 4 suspensions, which makes the numbers percent look higher. So we don't have daily fights. We might have an incident where 2 groups of kids get together and push and shove, and that's why there's short-term suspensions. And so that explains that, to be honest with you. I think that's as clear as it can be. We don't have daily incidents. It's rare that you walk the hallways and see a physical altercation.
So it's 36 unduplicated and 43 total incidents in the lower school through November this year. So, and they are essentially all short term. They are all short term, and almost the vast majority of them are in school.
Yeah.
So that wasn't one fight. That was.
Well, almost the thing. So there would be some kids. What we don't do is if a kid gets into an issue in the math classroom with a teacher, that kid may be suspended for a math class, but they're not going to be suspended for science or studies, English, and something else. So often you'll see that the number will be higher, but it won't result in loss of instructional time for the day. It may be loss of instructional time for that period. And that's the same process I used when I was in the suburbs as well. Like, well, if a kid is really engaged in science but has a conflict with the teacher in math, to have them miss science for that instance makes no sense. So then we do restore the practice, a circle with that teacher and that student until that kid can re-enter classroom in the way that makes sense. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a trend for the next few months, but we look at that, we identify who those kids are, and those are the kids that we put in a different intervention with the psychologist or social worker. Yeah.
Thanks. And again, I mean, just noting also that it's short term, and that really is significant, and to know that many of those are actually not just short term, like 1 or 2 days, under the definition, you know, less than 5 days, but actually maybe even just one period. That's the kind of you know, questioning and the understanding that we have to have as a board in terms of the range of what this data means, like what a short-term suspension means versus a long-term in school versus out of school, and then seeking these kinds of explanations and dialogue, I think, is really important, because it shows that even though there's an increase here, the actual news might be good, and seeing the very significant, like more than half decrease in the upper school numbers, maybe students are getting, you know, they're getting these short, immediate consequences that are in a restorative framework, and then as they get to the upper school, we're seeing a reduction in overall. I mean, that's an optimistic, hopeful view, and I mean, I think that might be what we're seeing. So again, thanks.
It's also why it's so important that we partner with School 33, so those students understand the expectations coming in, and it's not a new group of kids every year that takes 2 years to understand how we do things and how we function with restorative practice and how we mediate. If we can continue to have a core of kids coming with the same expectations, you should see a decrease in that over time. That's the intent.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Deputy Superintendent, we'll go to you for the report for the superintendent.
Good evening, commissioners, school community members. Thank you for the opportunity to present this report on behalf of Superintendent Barbara Dean Williams, who, as Commissioner Elliott noted, can't be here this evening as she is currently at a ceremony where she is being recognized by Monroe Community College and being inducted into their Alumni Hall of Fame. So while I'm sure the superintendent would downplay the significance of this award, it's a terrific achievement, and I think it speaks to her commitment to this community. I'm pleased to start this evening's presentation by highlighting a few of our schools in the district that have earned distinctions. First and foremost, as noted, congratulations to the Wilson Wildcats for being Section 5 Class A football champs. I also want to congratulate the World of Inquiry boys soccer team. They are Section 5 Class B2 champions, and we're very proud of our student athletes. Earning a Section 5 championship is quite an achievement. Many of you have heard about a new measure that ranks our schools. The media group USA Today Network created this measure called the New York Quality School Index. And before we get into the index and the measurements, please join me in congratulating some of our schools who were recognized in this process. The top elementary school in Monroe County, according to this index, is Francis Parker School 23. And while we've long known about the wonderful learning environment that exists in this school, thanks to the work of Principal John Gonzalez and his staff, it's so nice to see them receive this recognition. School 23 held an incredible ceremony this week. I attended along with many of you, and so thank you to everyone from the community who came out for this wonderful event. There were 2 other schools in our district that were also recognized on the New York Quality School Index on the list of top elementary schools. In Monroe County, Children's School of Rochester School 15 comes in at number 3. And on the list of top high schools in Monroe County, World of Inquiry School 58 tied for 4th. So again, please join me in congratulating the staff at these schools for all that they do each and every day on behalf of our kids and our community. The New York School Quality Index is based on data collected by the State Education Department, and the purpose of the index is to try to look beyond test scores as a measure of what makes a good school. Under the index, schools are assigned a score in each of 5 categories, and then given an overall score which are generated from those. So the individual categories are based on attendance, suspensions, student-to-teacher ratio, teacher experience, and racial diversity. And so we look forward to seeing how all of our schools progress on this index in the years to come, and hope to see more of our buildings on this list of top schools. As you know, there are many ways to measure a school's success. The superintendent's team has created a dashboard to track progress. Our school chiefs are charged with using the live data dashboard to track progress in real time so that we can meet our commitment of knowing every student by face and name. Some of you saw this firsthand during our leadership presentation at the at the World of Inquiry School. And we look forward to sharing more information about these dashboards as we develop them. On October 31st, the New York State Department of Education Commissioner announced that 7 of our 8 schools that have been in receivership made demonstrable improvement, and those schools are School 3, School 8, School 9, School 17, School 45, Monroe High School, and Northeast College Prep. Unfortunately, Kodak Park School 41, while showing progress, did not make demonstrable improvement. So, as you're aware, we're in the process of gathering information for you so that next steps can be decided. In addition, on November 9th, Assistant Commissioner Dr. Kim Wilkins and Barbara Mazinski, both from the State Education Department Office of Innovation and School Reform, visited us. During their visit, they visited schools 3 and 17 regarding their improvements and potential needs. They also visited 19 regarding the partnership with SUNY Geneseo. Dr. Wilkins and Ms. Mazinski will be returning at the end of the month to meet with school teams from 8, 45, and 9, all of which, as noted, made demonstrable progress. We are continuing our work in Path Forward. As promised, we're going to update you every month, and so I'm pleased to share our latest activities. As you know, Path Forward is a long-range educational and master facilities plan to ensure coherence between our educational programs, grade-level configurations, grade-level enrollments, and 21st century facilities. We are continuing to work on collecting data pertaining to enrollment and demographic trends, current facilities and seat capacity, academic overview, special education, and bilingual programming. We are continuing our work around community engagement as well. The Path Forward calls, as you know, for active and ongoing public engagement in an effort to reimagine our schools for the future. So we're conducting, over the course of the next couple months, more neighborhood, community, and school engagements, and I'll share some additional details on those in just a moment. As you'll remember, in December, our team will generate 3 pathways for the community and the board to consider. And as you know, we are pursuing a very, very aggressive timeline. So we will have our preliminary findings report that we can guarantee, but it is possible that some of the additional details that we anticipated would be in that report we may not have on December the 21st. So in the event that that happens, we'll make sure that we get that information to you after the new year. Last week, we conducted our high school engagement week, in which we invited community partners from 8 different high schools. So we visited with teachers and parents, students and community members at Northeast Northwest at Douglas Campus, Rochester International Academy, Edison, School Without Walls, Wilson Magnet, School of the Arts, Rochester Early College, and Monroe High School. So we invited a broad cross-section from our community to get feedback, and it should come as no surprise that a lot of questions and comments specific to transportation issues, community schools, and school choice surface. So we will continue to gather and synthesize this information. And we are working with Jing Chi and her team to finalize a revised plan for data collection. I know that came up last meeting. An analysis of each engagement, which will be more research-based and scientific, if you will. We have several more engagements that we plan to conduct, as noted, over the course of the next couple of months, including one that's happening this Saturday. We are going to be at Wilson Foundation starting at 10 o'clock as part of the National Family Engagement Day. So we encourage anyone interested to join us and participate and share feedback, and we will continue to promote all of our engagement sessions on the Path Forward website, which can be accessed through the Rochester City School District page. So feel free to check that site out. It has dates and times and locations of remaining sessions, and and it also has other information pertaining to Path Forward. So I started this presentation by acknowledging Superintendent Dean Williams, who couldn't be here this evening because she is, as noted, being inducted into the Monroe Community College Alumni Hall of Fame. And as I close, I'm happy to share news of another award winner among us. Congratulations to Fatima Reed this afternoon. Our Chief of Staff was inducted into this year's class of Rochester's 40 Under 40. And as you know, this is truly an impressive group. They represent the best leaders among us, and so I can't think of a more deserving inductee. Again, congratulations, Fatima. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent. Are there any questions for the Superintendent, Deputy Superintendent?
Just something that occurred to me as I see the list of the sessions that you're holding for the path going forward. Are you offering any of those in languages other than English?
Well, we just met on Tuesday night with the Bilingual Education Council, and that was offered in both languages, both in English and Spanish.
Okay. I think you might, something as important as this might be, is to maybe put forth a kind of town hall in Spanish. You know, it could be other languages, but at least in Spanish, so that you can have the whole thing really gone through, and inviting community representatives and organizations that we normally work with to be a part of that process, because they, I mean, for it to go forward, you really need community input to do that, and you want to make sure that you've got all segments of the community in terms of getting them in the initial conversation. So as you parcel out the community in different chunks, I think one of them that you should definitely talk to is, you know, folks at Ibero and things like that, and see if you can get them co-sponsored and help them recruit and talk to folks. But I think that would be an important thing to do.
We're in the process of adding dates, so I can bring that feedback back. I think that that's a great suggestion.
Thank you, Commissioner Cruz.
Just a quick comment and observation. I'm sure you heard all those comments. In fact, most of the comments that we heard during the speaker section of the agenda related to the school psychologist issue. So obviously, I'll ask the clerk to put in a formal request for our question log so we can get some kind of update on where that's coming from. I'm sure these people, it's not often that we have school psychologists come to board meetings to speak. I've been here about 14 years, and I've never seen that many come to speak about an issue. So something must be percolating or going on. So it'd be nice for the board to get a update on what's happening there, and also maybe a follow-up on that other person that spoke. I believe it was Ms. Nelson, about the teacher and the injury that that child had. If we can get an update on that, and maybe in writing, that would also be helpful. Thank you.
Commissioner Adams?
Just piggybacking exactly on those points, it really is concerning. There really seems to be a real disconnect between what's happening with special education reports from the ground, so to speak, from parents, students, and educators, professionals, that is really concerning. And I know it's challenging. It's a persistent issue and challenge, and there's reasons for that. And we know that people, dedicated, smart people, are struggling with the best intentions and best efforts. I do think that I think it would be appropriate to request a forum with, an open forum with community and parents where we can explain exactly where we stand mid-year, mid-academic year with implementation of our special education efforts, so that we as a board can understand the disconnect, because we hear contradictory explanations and reports, and parents are continuing to come to us with very concerning situations. We know that there's many struggles. So it can't be hashed out, can't be solved here tonight, but I think we're at a point where it would be appropriate to spend some time, a couple hours dedicated to really seeking to understand what's happening.
Any other questions?
Just if I may add to that as well, I think there were a number of different things that were said that really need to be fact-checked, because a lot of times it's just maybe how information is sort of moved from one place to the other. But this whole issue of what this video screening and assessment is all about, and what in fact that really is. I think the other issue about the plan that they had put forth and not gotten a response. I mean, so those kind of specific things that they mentioned tonight, I think would be good to really talk to, to say, yes, that's the case, or maybe that's not the case, or maybe it's just misconstrued in another way, but at least get those facts out, because you're right, it's highly unusual to have staff to come and talk in group and mass like that, especially among our psychologists. So there's some disconcerting information in there, so thank you.
Any other questions? I have one in reference to the parent who spoke out, or the person who works at School 9. As you know, I work at Bain Street Settlement, and the chair of the CET team also works for Bain Street, and that issue has been an issue with the drug paraphernalia out there. My executive director has been almost out of his mind, and I have followed up with the Fatima, and we've had Lori Baldwin to come out there. So it's an issue. We don't want to have our young people to get stuck with the needle. And let me just tell you my own personal experience. This was in church, and I'm doing a little cleaning in the bathroom and got stuck with the needle in the bathroom at church. And so there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and you have to undergo with that. So it's so very important that our children are not exposed to those needles, because we never know. There is an entire process that you have to go through to ensure that you don't have not contract with AIDS and hepatitis B and that kind of thing. So it's just really important that we focus on that. So that's got to be a high priority. All right. And so if I need to, I can reach out to the Chief Simonelli if I need to do that. I could do that as well, but we really need to address that issue, because we don't want anyone to have any issues of affecting with needles and what have you. So it's a huge issue. Yes. We have a couple other reports that we have to get. Do we have a representative from the Parent Advisory Council here this evening? And I'm told that your parents live in Lindenville, where the superintendent is from. They got black people out there?
My dad brought the only black man there.
Well, they just elected a black man of Helena, Montana, so we're all over.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm sorry. I will send you the report. I was looking for the electronic version of the parent status, the parent group status report, but I'll send that to you, Shanae, so you can distribute that. I just want to talk about the two things, the status of all the parent groups, and also about our PAC meeting that we had Monday night, and we met with RPD and we talked about body cameras. So there's a lot of information,
but I invited them back to do a general session with parents. So for our next informational, I'll have them come back. But what I told Lori, because Lori Baldwin was there too, I said it's important that we talk more about how does this affect our schools and our students. And that's what parents want to hear. But also, even greater concern was that we found out that body cameras are already being worn and started in September. Where was the parent engagement? Because parents didn't know anything about this. I know we didn't. We didn't know. We heard that there was a talk about it, but no one said it was a decision that was made. So our parents are concerned because all those parents that were there, none of them knew. And we're on the Parent Advisory Council. We supposed to know, and we didn't even know. So there's a lot of questions about that. So we're talking about having a bigger meeting with RPD, security, Lori Baldwin, and probably legal, because there's a lot of questions about who gets to see the video, things like that. So that's one of the things we talked about on Monday night. But the other thing is the parent status report, which is really huge because we talk about engagement. We've been doing this for years, and we're always at the same spot. And at this point, we have 33% of our schools are not in compliance with school-based planning teams. So Monroe, Soda, I guess this is RIA, because I don't know, RECIA, just number 3, number 4, number 5, number 9, 16, 17, 35, 41, 42, 52, 54, 16, 43, 44, Edison, and leadership are all out of compliance. And 48% of our schools do not have a functioning parent group. Some of them are the same schools. Number 3, 4, 8, 9, 16, 17, 28, 29, 35, 41, 42, 52, 44, Rhea, Soda, Monroe, Edison, number 50, number 54, and number 58. This was taken from the report that we received on Monday night. I asked for electronic version tonight to see if there was any updates, but I didn't receive one before I came here. But one of the other concerns, besides having no parents represented or engaged, is that a lot of these schools, actually, I was just trying to figure out, like almost 45% of them receive their Title I funds. And in order to receive your Title I funds, it has to be planned with the parents, and you have to engage parents. Title I funds is for parent engagement. So what's the consequences then? There's no consequence for them not having parents. They're still going to get their funds, and then they're going to continue. Like, as a matter of fact, I was using a report from last April. Some of these schools are from last April that still weren't compliant then. So what, if they're not being held to actually engage parents, what's the point for us to keep talking about it if they're still receiving their money? Number 8 received their money, 9, 28, 29, 41, 54, 58, Monroe, Edison, and Rhea all received their parent engagement funds. Why? There's nothing for them, there's nothing forcing them to actually engage parents. And until we do that, I mean, me just saying this just gonna blow by, but I'll be up here month after month saying what school is not engaging parents. But there needs to be some consequences. Title I money should not be released unless they have parents engaged. I can speak from personal experience being a parent. They walk up to you, say, sign this paper. What is it? Oh, we'll get money for our kids. Of course, what parent wouldn't sign it? And that's what they do. Until I actually found out what it was and being engaged, I said, no, we're going to do this the right way. And we're all going to sit down. We're going to talk about what kind of things we want to do as parents and engaging our parents at the school. But I'm in the know now. Not all parents are. But if there are no consequences or there's nothing to basically say, you're not going to get your money, I mean, there's no point in doing this, because some of these same schools, I'm looking from an April report, I didn't even have to change numbers. That's sad. And we start this every year. This is not new. We've been doing this for, what, 5, 6 years now? So, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Adams wants to speak.
2 things. One is I just got done with my questions for the CAFR, which you all can still submit questions for the CAFR. And elevation of, I'm trying to look for the right words, but school-based planning teams being truly meaningful and functional is an explicit, elevated strategy of this leadership team for instructional improvement. So I just want to make that point, that it is elevated as an instructional priority, as a key strategy for improving the instruction of this district, which I absolutely agree with, and I've said it before. I think last time I campaigned, I said that's the single one most important thing that we could do to improve the district, is actually activate school-based planning teams according to law. and meaningfully implement them with parent and educator involvement and collaboration. So that's one thing. So thank you for bringing it to us, calling us to task. I think that the Title I release is a relevant lever, and that we shouldn't release those funds. So I think that that should be implemented. Second, there seems to be some communication error internally regarding body camera review by parent groups, because I did confirm that parent groups actively reviewed the use of body cameras prior to September. So there's some communication issue there.
Commissioner Powell?
Yeah, I also want to thank you for being vigilant on the question of parent groups and school-based planning teams. However, I think that the information that's being fed to you may be inaccurate. I think you listed School of the Arts, for example, but I was contacted by the leadership of School of the Arts PTA asking me to come to their meetings. So I know they have an active PTA. They may not be responding to your request for information, and that may be true of some of the other schools as well, which is a problem in itself. I'm not trying to diminish that, but there's an issue of data integrity here.
Yeah, there could be, and that did come up on Monday night, but if I had received a new report from Monday to now, it stands as what I have, what they gave me on Monday night. But I agree with you, because it did come up, like, does SOTA really, because I was shocked, SOTA, what?
No, they definitely have
up.
an active PTA. Whether they have representation on school-based planning team, I would have to ask that question.
I can only report what they give me. And I agree with you, though, but I did ask for an updated report.
And you may want to get the names to be able to check.
Oh, no, that's, as a matter of fact, that was another requirement that PAC added on to it, because we found people who had moved, died, left.
Right.
No, it didn't exist, and they would say they had parents. So we did actually request that. So they have to have an actual roster with parent names, because then we can ask to pull that anytime and be able to contact parents.
Right.
So I agree with you there. So they have to turn into a roster with names with actual contact information as well.
We appreciate your work. Thank you. Is there someone for a bilingual report here this evening?
There's a report.
I know there's a report, but I just wanted to be respectful and ask if there was someone that wanted to report. All right. So no report. We do have the bilingual report, so we'll go to the board reports, but we'll start with our student commissioner and get a report from Genesis Silva.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to start with the Rock to Change Student Race Summit. And I want to start with that Brockport will be hosting this event tomorrow. And like I've said in the past meetings, I and 15 other students from each school will be attending and representing the Rochester City School District. The Race Summit is a wonderful way to bring people with different schools, districts, or from different schools, districts, backgrounds, races, and cultures to educate and have productive discussions about race, classism, bias, and prejudice. This is a very important topic in our country right now, and we want to contribute to this discussion. It's important to hear others and share our point of view, so we are going to make sure that our voices are heard. There's power in the youth, so we are really looking forward to it. A report about the Race Summit will be given at the December Board of Education meeting. And I'm going to follow with reports from Leadership Academy for Young Men. The students of Leadership Academy for Young Men feel that the administrators do not listen to them. They feel as if they aren't being heard. There is absolutely no negotiations, no compromise, and no student voice. They feel like this because they have tried to have homecoming, spirit week, and pep rallies and modifications with their uniform. These activities cannot happen if student voices aren't being listened to. This creates inconsistencies in the schools because students in other schools, such as P-TECH and School Without Walls, feel as if they're given the opportunity to express their ideas and concerns. If my school is a school that values the student voice, then why can't all the other schools value it too? Leadership Academy for Young Men students feel that their counselors aren't available to them because they are always busy. The counselors are helpful when they get a chance, but that doesn't happen often. Every time they try to reach out to counselors, their counselors are always in meetings, and counselors are there to work for the children, to be with the children, to interact with the students. And this is important, and we need to value that because the students need help and they need to be able to get that. They also feel like there aren't enough strong relationships between teachers and students. The relationship a teacher and a student should have is crucial to education. And if we want students to strive in their education, it is important to encourage strong relationships that should already be implemented. And I'm gonna finish off with some recognitions. Student leadership isn't just about expressing concerns, but about noticing the good things that are going on in this district as well. With this, we would love to recognize the following administrators and staff for doing what it takes to have the strong relationships between teachers and students. From Leadership Academy for Young Men, and excuse me if I mispronounce any names, Tara Milch, Reginald Simmons, Elizabeth Casey, and Savine Marshall. From Edison High School, we would like to recognize Ms. Tooks, Ms. Cruz, Mr. Zebelman, Mr. Tyndall, and Principal Walter Larkins. From P-Tech, we would like to recognize Melissa Rich and Daniel Brace. And from East High School, we would like to recognize Mackenzie Adams. From School Without Walls, we would like to recognize Gilbert Rosa, Dan Sullivan, Eileen Rivera, Elisa Bond, Anne Marie Papinto, and Principal Coretta Bridges. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. And this isn't in the report, but I would like to invite parents, staff, and students to come out to the Victorious Minds Community Forum event. Dr. Joy DeGrew will be speaking here, and there will be a panel with students and parents. So it is on November 30th from 5:30 to 8 o'clock at the Wilson Foundation. So please come out. Thank you.
Ms. Silva, I appreciate your reports every month. I appreciate you being here. I hope to see you one day in one of these seats officially. So you're doing a great job, and so thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Powell, we'll hear your report.
Thank you. Before I start, I want to make a couple of notes. As I was mentoring our student representative, we went through the agenda very briefly and remind you that you, the chair, that she does not have an advisory vote on resolutions 366 through 406, but that
could you repeat those again?
The first four categories, 366 through 406.
Okay.
But if you would please ask for her advisory vote before our vote is taken on the remainder, except that resolution 417 embedded in the other category happens to be a personnel matter, so her advisory vote would not count in that if that continues to be taken as a bundle. Okay? On the policy committee, we met on Thursday the 9th as a committee meeting of the whole. We spent a fair amount of time on the code of conduct. In particular, we're still trying to get the New York State School Board Association recommendations embedded into our code of conduct. Proposed changes include explicit definitions of the rights and responsibilities of each group of stakeholders in the district, that is the students, the parents, the teachers, and administrators, to ensure that all are aware of the expectations of each other, clarifying student protections and rights when being questioned or searched by law enforcement, requiring at least 30 days advance notice before a public hearing is held to consider changes to the code of conduct. The proposed amendments to the Code of Conduct have been presented to members of the School Climate Advisory Committee, and their input has been requested. Members of the Policy Committee plan on holding off on advancing the proposed revisions until the Advisory Committee has presented their policy recommendations. So that's essentially still in our queue. There's a new proposed student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention policy Policy 0115. This policy proposal is also introduced to members of the School Climate Advisory Committee to obtain their feedback. And we will continue to discuss this policy in our December meeting. A new proposed equity and excellence in education policy came before the committee to address cultural and racial inequalities inequities in the district systems and practices. The proposed policy outlines methods for overcoming systemic barriers and strategies to be employed with each stakeholder group to promote inclusion, racial, ethnic, and cultural responsiveness. In addition, the committee members reviewed recommendations on the two policies that were pulled. Those include the wellness policy and the suspected child abuse and neglect policy. In the wellness policy, the proposed amendments to the policy were presented to the Wellness Task Force, and the task force did respond with a number of additional recommendations which are included in the updated draft that is on the dais for you today. And you should have received that in advance of today's meeting. We'd like that to bring that resolution, the resolution to adopt that policy change tonight under, it is under new business. Likewise, the suspected child abuse and neglect policy 5460, some of the revisions to this policy proposal had been suggested, as well as accompanying superintendent regulations. The policy revisions and regulations clarify and distinguish the requirements and processes for reporting suspected child abuse to CPS versus allegations of abuse in the educational setting. Those will be brought to you in resolution under new business. As discussion items, you have before you revisions to the preschool education programs policy 4320.5 based on recommendations from Dr. Robin Hooper, and a new proposed field trips and excursions policy that is consistent with existing regulation and establishes a criteria for field trips on an approval basis. As an information item, so those are under discussion, again under new business. Information item, a new policy, the equity and educational excellence policy that I just described is being advanced to the full board. This is an information item, which means next month we will discuss it, and in January we would consider adopting it. The policy committee meeting will next meet December 7th, following the board governance committee. That concludes my policy committee report. On other business, I will be participating in the New York State School Board Association's Board of Directors meeting on December 2nd and 3rd, and anticipate participating in the Monroe County School Boards Association Advocacy Day in Albany the following Monday, December 4th. If there's anyone else that's interested in going to the Monroe County School Board Association Advocacy Day, please let me know and we can coordinate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Commissioner Hallmark?
Yes, thank you. The Governance Committee met November 1st to discuss a proposal to restructure our standing committees. The proposal would allow for a number of consolidated committee meetings and co-chairs to improve the effectiveness and the functioning of the board. The committee will continue discussing this as we're still in the middle of it, and another proposal for partial liaison reassignment that has been distributed to commissioners at an upcoming meeting. As chair of the governance, I've put together a list of topics ranging from open meeting laws to education laws to building tours and parking stuff to address the orientation of new board members that will be joining us soon. And if other commissioners have any suggestions for the list, please give me feedback for that as we're putting that training together soon. The board will hold a work session scheduled for Saturday, December 9th at 8:30 a.m. till noon, and we'll be looking at the proposals mentioned, superintendent and board goals, and budget priorities. Full agenda, all right? So that concludes my governance report. Although point of personal privilege, I want to mention that I had the pleasure of being able to go to a fundraising event for School 12, where they were raising money for Puerto Rico and Mexico. And it was a terrific event with drum circles and martial arts and all sorts of raffles, and it was a lovely day of community. And also, I wanted to share that I had the pleasure of attending. I'm trying to get around to school-based planning teams when I can. Recently attended the Integrated Arts and Technology School-Based Planning meeting just yesterday, actually, and I was pleased to hear about an innovative session that they're coming up. They're going to be planning for April 28th, and I think it's open to the public, and it's called Education Camp. And it's organized under the idea that the best professional development is when you learn from your peers in subject areas that you get to select. So this is an opportunity for teachers to share best practices. It's an unconference, it's free, it's open to the public, and I believe it's April 28th, so I encourage folks to check that out. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Evans.
I'll keep my report brief. As you know, the ESA committee meeting met. ESA committee meeting met as a committee of the whole on Tuesday, November 14th. We got an update from Rock the Future and the work that they're working on in improving the conditions for students and families in the Rochester area. And also, you know, we had a conversation around School 41, as we know, based on information provided by the New York State Commissioners of Education. They did not meet the required 67% of demonstrable improvement, and we will be working on a plan to address falling short of those measures in the coming weeks. Board members discussed the importance of pointing out these concerns to the State Education Department officials in terms of the time frame, as well as the time needed to thoroughly prepare and develop an effective plan for the future. The next ESA committee meeting will take place in January 18th, following the Finance Committee meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairman. The Finance Committee met on November the 13th. We reviewed a number of resolutions. We also reviewed and accepted or received the September 2017 financial report, and as a result, I'd like to put forth a motion to accept that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We also reviewed a number of resolutions that are in your packet this evening, resolutions 376 from East EPO, and a number of procurement supplies, facilities, and other resolutions. Were all represented this evening with recommendations for approval by the Finance Committee. As you know, we go through a number of these resolutions, and we do specifically ask questions, and the committee is where a lot of the discussion takes place. In my report, I would like to make one correction. There was one resolution, number 420, in your package this evening that was not presented with our recommendation, only because there were a number of questions that we had with regard to a leasing situation with the Center for Youth Services, and I'm hoping Chief Schmidt is here to, if there's any questions, to have to ask those questions this evening. But all the other resolutions were presented as presented. So our next meeting is on December the 14th. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cruz. Commissioner Adams?
The audit committee did not meet since our last board meeting. You were all invited to submit questions regarding the draft CAFR. On December 5th, the audit committee will meet, and we will advance the CAFR at that point.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. And
there's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a question about that. The CAFR, is there a deadline before December 5th for the questions?
It was 2 days ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I submitted my late recently.
I can still submit some.
Please do submit questions as soon as possible.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. The Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee met on November 14th, and we reviewed the latest version of the legislative agenda, decided whether to add additional legislative items for inclusion, and discuss the plan for the 2017 legislative breakfast. However, if we're going to do it on February 3rd, it's going to be the 2018 legislative agenda. We discussed the newest version of the legislative agenda. The updated agenda was shared with the executive cabinet, and cabinet members have responded that they too have no concerns with the document. Upon receiving additional legislation, the CIGR committee has decided to support and add 5 additional new bills in the agenda. These bills encourage equity and seek to address some of the district's major concerns. The committee will be opposing 2 bills in the agenda, which, if passed, would directly affect the district because they seek to challenge the viability of public education. Additionally, the committee will be highlighting transportation as a major legislative priority. The committee highlighted the importance of consulting with partner organizations during the review process. As such, the committee will be seeking input from the Big Five and Monroe County School Board Association, and hopes that this feedback will encourage final updates to the agenda before it is submitted to the board for approval in the December business meeting. Following the revision of the legislative agenda, the committee engaged in conversation regarding the legislative breakfast. Given the delays in confirming the legislative agenda and limited planning time, the committee has decided to postpone the legislative agenda that was originally scheduled for November 18th, and the new date will be February 3rd, 2018. And it has been, well, I don't know if it's been formally accepted and scheduled. Has it been formally accepted, the February 18th date? Okay. Excuse me, the February 3rd date. It's been approved by the committee, however, not from the full board. Following the decision, the committee reviewed the attendee list and fielded suggestions for speakers at the breakfast. The committee will be reviewing the communications plan in detail in the next meeting, and the next CIGR meeting is scheduled for Thursday, December 14th at 6:30 p.m. And just a point of personal privilege, I did attend, I don't know if this was last month, I did visit the Leadership Academy program for young men. I didn't have enough time to visit to go to classrooms, so I'm going to make another visit there again. Someone reached out to me about coming, so I'm going to make a second visit over there. I also, just yesterday, I believe, was at the Young Mothers Program. And I just want to remind people, if you have some time to come out to the Rhea Thanksgiving dinner, you're going to be in for a treat. So that's going to happen this Saturday. I know it's sort of somewhat conflicts with the National Family Engagement Day, but this is going to be from 11 to 3. It is a huge event, so if you all can attend, I really would like for you to attend. You're going to be very well received, and a lot of food, so please come out. So we're down to, I've got to ask for a motion to accept the performance appraisal tool for the General Counsel. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Thank you. So may I have a resolution? We're down to the resolutions now. May I have a motion to consider resolutions 366 through 378?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I got no to 378. Resolution 379, it is a tenure resolution. Can I get a motion for that one?
Move it.
All in favor? Oh, second. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolutions 380 to 400. Can I get a motion for 380 to 400?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, resolutions 401 to 406 for additional pay. Can I get a motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Adams?
Yep, I just wanted to comment on 406, which is additional pay for language assessment for people coming from Puerto Rico due to the hurricane. And I just would like to, I absolutely support this, but I want to make sure that we are adequately supporting the schools that are receiving the people who are coming from the hurricane-affected area, whether it means additional Spanish-speaking paraprofessionals, whether it means, you know, I know that we have a persistent problem with having enough certified bilingual educators, continuing to grapple with that problem, but also just speaking with the leaders in the school communities that are receiving the students and finding what they need and responding to that need. And I don't know how to do this officially with my colleagues, but you know, a straw poll or seeking some kind of consensus that if some resource mobilization needs to be done, whether we need to write a resolution for it, to support the movement of resources as needed to meet these needs. You know, we recently agreed to extra support for compliance in the legal department. If we can do that, then we can accommodate the needs of our schools that are receiving these students. So maybe we can seek a question and we can get a response if that would be needed to get a sense from the full board that we would like to see, and if my colleagues agree, that we would like to see a reasonable movement of resources to do this, if that's necessary. If, on the other hand, there's reassurances that it's being met or is able to be met, because I have heard requests and concerns, you know, throughout the community to make sure that we have a little bit more in these schools.
Commissioner Cruz?
I would, it's a good idea. I would like to take one step back. Maybe what we should ask for is the administration to give us an update on their efforts with regard to responding to this issue first before we decide whether we want to do some kind of, as you say, mobilization of funds. I know that there are staff have been working very closely with organizations to deal with this issue. I think there were last word I heard there were some 300 children who have come to the district. I'm not sure what that number is now, but there were like 500 or 600 families who are coming through. So there's a number of people coming in. But I know that the district is involved with organizations like Ibero working on this. So if we can get an update as to what that effort is, then that might give us some clues as to what's going on. And if there's anything missing in that picture, then I think we might be able to,
and
add
there
to that.
Yeah, there has been there was a leadership meeting Wednesday, so there has been some discussion that's going on about it.
And I guess I should have started by saying appreciation for the work that has been done. I know that Ray Martino and others have met and are doing really hard work to place students. I totally appreciate the work that already has been done and that is continuing. I'm just asking that we make sure we pay attention to all this work to greet and welcome the students and place them is continued on through the school year in terms of adequate supports at the school level. So appreciation and knowledge of the work that's being done.
So what are you asking for the time being? What are you asking for us to consent? If there's a consensus, or you prefer to wait?
I mean, I can go with
something
with Commissioner Cruz's suggestion that we ask for an update first.
Okay. Any of them? Okay. So can I get a? It was moved to second, correct?
Yes, it was.
All right. So all in favor of resolutions 401 through 406?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I will vote no on 401 through 405, but yes on 406. All right. Can I get a motion? You can't do that to me. You know I'm fumbling here. Can I get a motion? 407 to 408. And it's been moved by Commissioner Cruz and second by?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Student advisory vote? Aye, okay. Resolutions 409 to 414. It's been moved by Commissioner Cruz.
We got the student advisory's vote, but not the rest of us.
Oh, all in favor? Sorry. Aye. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Resolution 409 to 414, we have a motion from Commissioner Cruz. Can I get a second? Or did we have a second? Commissioner Powell? Is there any discussion? All in favor? Oh, can I get the advisory vote? I'll get this right one of these days. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion on resolutions 415 through 421. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Somebody motion? All right, second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
What?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Which is a personal. Go ahead.
Okay, so all except for 417, which is a personal matter. Aye.
Thank you. Vote from, Commissioner Adams?
Yep, I just wanted to say regarding 415 and 416, which are authorization to enter into agreement with the International Institute for Restorative Practices. Two things. One, I just want to reiterate the hope that as we develop and get more sophisticated and stronger with restorative practices throughout the district, that we look at student leadership in appropriate grades in terms of restorative practices. So to the extent that consultants like this are coming and working with administration, if there can be opportunities for them to meet with students and to just try to get ways, try to develop, we can do this in this district because this district is committing and spending a lot of resources on restorative practices. So how do we combine youth leadership and how do we bring in people involved in youth leadership with restorative practices so that we are youth-centered and nurturing youth leadership and we will therefore have better restorative practices. Same thing with parents and family members. How do we use these consultants to and have an expectation? Can we develop a district articulated expectation of the consultants that they are parent and family centered and youth leadership centered? And could we get some feedback on that from this consultant, which is working in multiple schools? I don't know how could we do that? Would that be reasonable? To get some feedback from the consultants regarding their practices that promote and nurture youth leadership and parent involvement?
Yeah, I think anytime that we bring in consultants, I think the end result that we hope for is that we're also developing internal capacity. Beth, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. No. Okay. Not if you don't have anything to add.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? Commissioner Powell? Okay. So can I get a vote on resolutions 415 through 421?
Aye.
So you want to call my attention to something?
Yes, the agenda doesn't include resolutions 422 through 424.
I was going to discuss that. You usually introduce or have some comments on these. Would you like to? I also have one comment, but would you like to present these resolutions?
I yield the floor to Commissioner Hallmark.
All right, Commissioner.
Yeah, it got passed to me last time. I'm happy to. These are resolutions 422, 23, and 24 are gifts to the district, and I just think it's appropriate that we publicly thank folks instead of just passing it as a number. 422, AXA Foundation donated $2,500 to School 33 for homeless youth. 423 was Wegmans has donated 2 Vitamix blenders for the Oasis program for cooking. And 424, the Martin Suter and Suzanne Suter Family Fund has donated $15,000 to be used to ensure that students receive authentic work experience in construction trades at Edison. And so we thank you very much for those donations. Oh, yes.
You have to move it?
Oh, yes. We have to move this, so we move to accept these resolutions.
Second.
And the students vote? And I also just wanted to, am I not allowed to make comments on this after the vote has been done?
After the vote.
No?
Oh, yeah, after the vote.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm very excited about Resolution 424, where we have the Suter family that donated $15,000. I don't think that I've seen a resolution for donations that they've donated this amount. And so I'm just really, I want us to really make sure that we are doing the right work, because we don't know if they may have another 15,000, another 15,000 in order to donate. So we want to make sure that this donation is, I see that the students will receive authentic work experience. I just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with this one, and that we show our appreciation to the Suter family for making this kind of a donation. I do know that the superintendent is looking to get additional money from different locations. This may be the beginning of an opportunity to partner on a larger scale if we do this right. And so I just want to make sure, Deputy Superintendent, that we do this right, and that we engage with this family, and that on a way in which we can have a continued relationship. So.
Point of order. We haven't had vote. We haven't cast our votes yet.
Yep. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So I think that concludes our.
Madam President.
The other policies.
I think the correct way to do this is a motion to lift resolutions 353 and 354. Which were tabled last month from the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
These would be the two policy resolutions I spoke of in my report.
All right. So can I get a motion for the approval of resolution 353 and 354?
Move it.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. There seems to be no unfinished business. Commissioner Powell, you were talking about the equity and educational excellence policy as an information item, and there is there discussion on the preschool education programs policy and the field trips excursion policy? Any discussion on those items?
I would only say that they are pretty straightforward, and they went through the policy committee.
Okay. All right. And let me just announce that the next business meeting is going to be December 21st at 6:30. For further information, go to the webpage, www.rcsdk12.org for additional meeting information. And just on behalf of the board, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and that you enjoy your time off. Really take those days off, Monday and Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. So thank you for being here, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look, you see, something at a meeting, we do that at 8:25. Who is that?
Oh, no executive session.
I need a high five.
High five.